What's on, guys? We're back with a brand new video. Today's video we'll be going back over the round 3 recap. Now, recaps have been so fun to make, just talking about footy for a bit. Now this one will not be as long as the other one last week. The other one was like a 37-minute one. The week before was 22 minutes, so it'll be around probably the 20-minute mark. I've obviously not recorded the full video yet, but I'll be around that mark. Won't be a long as one, simply because it was Easter weekend, spending time with the family. Even though I did attend 2 of these AFL matches, which were the kick after the siren match with Zach Bailey, which was absolutely insane to be at that game. The crowd went absolutely crazy, and I also went to the St Kilda game where we got absolutely smashed by Essendon. So I'll go full on detail of everything I saw from that match later on in the video. Make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, and without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first game that we do have is Collingwood versus the Brisbane Lions, and this was hands down the game of the round. I actually did attend this game, is what I said before, and jeez, what an absolute moment when Zach Bailey, after having such a bad moment last week with not getting that holding the ball call, which should have been like leading to him kicking a game winner last week, ends up finishing an absolutely beautiful goal from about 45 out, straight in front, and he definitely did deserve the moment. I did end up attending the game with some Collingwood supporters, and I was sitting around Collingwood supporters, and they were definitely not too happy about it. But you know what? You move, an absolute great effort for Collingwood to do that. I think they weren't the favourites. I'm pretty sure Lions were the favourites. So to put up that much of an effort was still very, very good. And some of the star players in this game was obviously Brodie Grundy. There was no real opponent for him that could handle him on the other team. We're judging that they had no ruckman. He finished with the 54 hit-outs and gathering almost 30 possessions, which is really good. And an underrated part of Collingwood's game this year is how consistent Mason Cox has been. Has not played a bad game so far this year. Loving what he's been doing. Braden Sire played probably his best game for the club, or the best game I've ever seen him play. And Noble moving to a wing has been really, really good. I feel like every time he gets the ball, something good happens for them. And then we talk about, the Brisbane Lions side of things. The way that Brisbane, have been kind of out of it. They've almost left their runs the past few weeks to the last minute. So I'm not too impressed by what Brisbane have been doing this season. They do look very, very off, and don't look like the Brisbane that we have been expecting from the past years. But Joe Danaher has filled his bargain so far. He finished with 3 goals and absolutely teared up Darcy Moore. This is the worst game Darcy Moore's played in a while. He got absolutely beaten. But on the other side of things, Jordan Roughhead had his best game in the club, absolutely tearing up Eric Hipwood. I don't think Eric Hipwood kicked the 1 goal, but Jordan Roughhead plays so well on him. And yeah, great effort. So my Brownlow votes for this match, I did give I'm just trying to find it right here, sorry guys. So for the Brownlow votes, I did give the votes to 1 Jared Lyons, 2 Daniel Rich, and 3 Brodie Grundy. Next up is the Good Friday smashing. North end up getting up by 128 points, and this was just a Josh Bruce show. And to be honest, Josh Bruce finishing with his 10 goals made this game actually entertaining, because I found out pretty much in that 4th quarter, I've never been so hyped for 128 points smashing. I was watching the game, all I wanted was just thinking, come on Bruce, just get this 10, and he finished with the 10 goals, and it was absolutely elite. Now, this was really disappointing, because early on this match, North did show a lot of great pressure, and definitely looked better early than they did in the game last week against Gold Coast. They kind of look like what they did look against Port Adelaide in that 1st quarter, where they actually did lead Port. But in the end, the midfield was just too good. Adam Treloar playing his best game for the football club, kicking 3 goals, almost getting that 30 possession game. And yeah, no real bright side. I did think when I was watching this game that Will Phillips did not look great at all in his first game of football. And there's so many comparisons to Logan McDonald now that Logan McDonald pretty much broke onto the scene, is already a elite small forward. Small forward, key forward. But Will Phillips did not look too great at all. He looked like he was kind of scared to pick up the ball. There was a thing where him and another opponent were rushing into the wing, and he pretty much just ran over and let his opponent pick up the ball because he was too scared to actually grab it, which just looked very, very bad. But the intensity was there for North. Their kicking was absolutely horrendous, and Bulldogs just proved that they're the real deal in 2021. So my Brownlow votes, I did give the Brownlow votes to 1. Josh Dunkley, 2. Adam Treloar, and 3 to Josh Bruce. Next up is Adelaide versus the Suns, and Adelaide ended up getting up by 10 points and continuing on their brilliant form so far this season, and have been a real good surprise, mainly led by the man himself, the big Texan, Tex Walker, finishing with 6 goals in this match, and led another brilliant game for the power forwards. This Good Friday was led from power forwards. First was Josh Bruce, then we got to see the Tex in action. Tex has not moved this well since his early days, the 2012s and 13s when Tex was moving this good. He has absolutely wound back the clock. I'm actually loving seeing Tex Walker play this year. In the past, I just didn't like how he played and made me dislike him as a player. But this year, how he's been moving around was absolutely great to see. And he's just playing with a lot of confidence. And on the bright side of things for the Gold Coast Suns, they look very, very good even without Matt Rowell. I did tip Adelaide in this game simply because I never trust Gold Coast without Matt Rowell. And even though they did lose this game, I still feel like that they're still a very, very good side, and they've built a nice structure. And even maybe I'm just thinking that maybe that Matt Rowell injury has actually helped Gold Coast for the long run, because now they know how to cope when Matt Rowell is not in that midfield. But for a sad note, Jared Witts looked like he has done his knee, and now this leaves Gold Coast in a really weird position, because sadly that means that they don't actually have a ruckman. Because the other ruckman that they picked up, Zach Smith, also is out with an injury for like 5 weeks. So they're gonna have to. I think they have a lot of people coming through in their academy and stuff like that. So they'll find a developing ruckman that they can chuck in there. But very, very good. Sam Berry's probably one of the best midfielders. The best defensive midfielders and up and coming, probably 22 and younger. And I'm just been loving how he's been going about it. So very, very good by him. Young Jimmy Rowe is just a great small forward for what they need. Love what he's been bringing to the table. Ben Keys has been very, very consistent this season. Hugh Greenwood had his first good game back this year after having a very, very good season last year. And just loving how these two clubs are playing. They're probably in the same spot when you think about it in the long run. But either way, I've gave the votes to. I gave the 1 to Brandon Ellis, the 2 to Rory Sloane, and the 3 to Tex Walker. Next up was probably another game of the round, and it wasn't even a close game. And that was Sydney smashing the Richmond Tigers by 45 points, an absolute upset. Some people did tip the Swans, but not to beat them by 45 points. And the score probably looks better than it should, because Sydney absolutely dominated this game, and you wouldn't be surprised they ended up getting it up by about 70. That's just how good they were playing. They absolutely dominated this game, and it looked like they dominated using the Richmond play style. Now, I didn't watch much of this game simply because during this time I was travelling to the St Kilda Essendon game, which is pretty sad. But either way, some great young talent in this game, and Sydney are looking like a real threat to be in the top 8 this year. I almost think that they are going to be the biggest riser after seeing what they've done so far. I feel like their form is not like the way that the game style is moving, and they didn't even play this game with Buddy Franklin. Buddy Franklin ended up getting rested for this game, and you expect them to start the season 4-0 going up against Essendon, even though Essendon are coming off a lot of confidence. But the Sam Wicks actually played absolutely amazing. Lloyd, Callum Mills, Jordan Dawson, Ollie Florent, Luke Parker, Chad Warner had his best game of his AFL career, looked very, very good. Earl Goodwin looked absolutely amazing. Tom Papley continued on his form from last year. And a real surprise this season was Tom Hickey. His ability to actually You know, people didn't know what his role was going to be when he first came to Sydney. They didn't know he was just going to help out, you know, Callum Sinclair and Naismith not really play much. But he looks like he's their number one ruckman now. He's been hitting the scoreboard a lot. Been loving what he's doing. And a real different surprise this year is Isaac Heaney. Not because, you know, of how much better he is from last year, how worse he is from last year, but his ability that he's barely gone midfield so far this season. He's been almost like in a Jordan De Goey type role, and I've been loving his impact on the game. And yeah, very, very good. And a bit of, on a sad note, even though Richmond did get smashed, I'm not talking too much about Richmond because, to be honest, there's not much to talk about on the Richmond front of things. Apart from that, Dusty got tagged completely out of this game by George Hewitt and looked like they have no impact. And they're actually exposing Dusty by, you know, using his man in the stoppages, because Dusty doesn't like to play too much defense, so he might have to, you know, pick up in that part of the game. And also that Dion Prestia did go down with another hamstring injury after just recovering from one, which was really sad to see on that front. But for my votes, I've given the 1 to Callum Mills, the 2 to Chad Warner, and the 3 to Sam Wicks. Next one was an absolute surprise, and I thought how the scoreboard looked was going to be flipped, but Essendon ended up getting the job done on St Kilda by 75 points. And to be honest, I'm going to go a bit different on this game, since I was at this match and I am a St Kilda supporter, so just my live reaction of how I kind of felt about this match was that, even though you could see on the front and how I've just seen in the media and on social media of how Essendon are hyped up about all their young players now and how they went about it, and even though they did look very, very good, and they do definitely have some nice young talent as well, I already saw on their list that they did have. This was a match where, from my point of view, this was St Kilda beating St Kilda. They came out, I was at the match, and the first 5 minutes, you would probably have to say, you could just tell that they were going to lose this game. The way that they were playing, they didn't even turn up. The lack of effort, no pressure. Their brand from last year was non-existent. And it was just so sad to see that St Kilda have turned out to be one of the most disappointing sides so far this year. They're having so much potential, and I thought they had, you know, the potential to be a top 4 side, and how they perform so far, it's going to make it so hard for them to do that now. They have a big 3 weeks ahead, but this is 3 weeks that are coming up to be the most important 3 weeks for a St Kilda player's career, the way that they bounce back. But on the, you know, Jack Steele absolutely had an amazing performance, and it seemed like the only extra St Kilda player to stand up. And yeah, so very, very good game by the Bombers though, with Hawker kicking 5, Stringer kicking 4, Kevin Woody kicking 3, young Harrison Jones kicked a couple, and Nick Hine against his old side played very, very well. Not to mention Darcy Parish absolutely dominating in the midfield with Zach Merritt alongside him and Andrew McGrath. Very, very good played by the Bombers. For former Brownlow votes, I get the 1 to Jack Steele, the 2 to Jordan Ridley, and the 3 to Darcy Parish. Next up is another pretty big margin, which is West Coast getting up on Port Adelaide by 37 points at Optus Stadium. And I wasn't sure how West Coast were going to play going into this game. I did actually end up picking Port in this game to get the job done, but I forgot how good West Coast are at Optus Stadium, and I expect them to not even drop a game at Optus Stadium by the way they play at that arena. Andrew Gaff looked absolutely back to his best, and so did Luke Shuey before. Sadly, another hamstring injury has happened with Luke Shuey, which means yet again he's on the sidelines, and this time it's going to be a long approach, since I think this is something like his 7th soft tissue injury in 12 months, which is absolutely horrific on any sort. But on the brighter note, Nick Nui absolutely dominated this game on Scotty last set. Not in almost like the hit outs, but I mean the hit out to advantage is what I'm trying to say. Like his hit outs, you know, he didn't get too many of them. He's not like a Brody Grundy where he gets the 50 hit outs. he could get 26 hit outs, but 24 of them could be hit outs to advantage. I'd recommend to go and watch some of his hit outs he did this game. It was so impressive by the way that he does it. Tim Kelly played one of his best games for the club, I would have to say, kicking the goal and getting 28 disposals. And very, they just end up just handling the backline of Port Adelaide so well. They end up being able to isolate their three tools in Oscar Allen, Josh Kennedy, and Jack Darling. And then Flying Ryan takes absolutely mark of the year in my books. His ability to just get up like that is ridiculous. Once I saw that, since I wasn't actually watching the game, I was coming back from the Essendon Saints game. I opened my phone, look at Instagram, and that's the first thing I saw, and my mouth was almost on the ground. That's so great that he did that. Absolutely love the work of what West Coast are doing. Now it's just to see if they can do it away from home. They have a decent test over a poor St Kilda at Marvel Stadium, where they can kind of try to build some form away from home, which will be a pretty big clash. But if you're a Port Adelaide fan, you would not be too worried about how they play this game. When you versus West Coast away, it's so hard to get up in a win. But I expect them to bounce back next week. I'm not sure who they have next week, but I have a feeling that they will end up bouncing back. For the votes in this match, I get the 1 to Jack Redden, the 2 to Luke Shuey, and the 3 to Andrew Gaff. Next up is Blues versus Fremantle, and Blues end up absolutely smashing out this game by a huge performance by the big fella Harry Mackay in his 51st game of football, and this was just led by Paddy Cripps returning to career best form, finishing with the 2 goals and 34 disposals. That's 2019 Cripps numbers, and a surprising man in Lockie Fogarty played his best game of football ever after coming across from Geelong, finishing with 1 goal, 25 disposals, and not to mention Sam Walsh with 37 disposals. This team absolutely played out of its skin, even though there was a lot of injury-ridden Fremantle team. They lacked key forwards apart from Matt Tabata, which has allowed Liam Jones to just, play off his man. He didn't really worry about the resting ruckman, which was either, Lloyd Meek or Sean Darcy. He was pretty much just free roaming back there, marking anything that even came close to him, which is pretty much just set up the game for players like Adam Sard and Sam Doherty to get off the chain with the rebound. Lockie Plowman even played a good game. When Lockie Plowman plays a good game, something's going on. The only probably disappointment is how Zach Williams played. He did keep on getting hit, and I won't say injured, but kept on getting hard hitted, if that's even a word. And definitely didn't have a breakout game. A lot of people were probably hoping that he would, but either way, very good game. Eddie Betts kicked a miracle goal. And on the Fremantle front, you'd have to say that this was just a game used to the take as a loss. Their midfield didn't play as good. The young midfield group did not really shine like it did the week before. David Mundy didn't have his brilliant game, but he did finish with 11 tackles this game. But probably the only real highlight that I could probably point to thing about this game is that Michael Frederick had 5 shots on goal. Michael Walters finished an actual full game of football and had the 2 goals with the 13 disposals, and that Heath Chapman, their first round pick, had 18 disposals. But either way, for the Brownlow votes, I'm going to give the 1 to Lockie Fogarty, the 2 to Patrick Cripps, and the 3 to Harry Mackay. Next up was a back and forth clash when Melbourne ended up running away with it late by 34 points. We're a team that is just not looking good for GWS again this season. By the looks of it, this could be another write-off. Not just because of how they performed in this match, and because of some of the injuries to their key players. Phil Davis went down with, I can't remember what they said about that, but it was a soft tissue injury again. Stephen Caniglio with an ankle injury, which could be a recurring one, which there's even some rumours it could be out for the rest of the season. So their captain going down for a season-ending injury is never good. Their tagger that played very, very good, Matt DeBoer, also went down with an injury. So, you know, not looking good on that front. Melbourne ended up going unscathed, with Max Gawn having a game-winning performance, having 4 shots on goal, 2 of them being goals, 24 disposals, 28 hitouts, and this roam around the ground. He played a bit different than how he did against St Kilda. Instead of floating back, he actually floated forward with, you know, the rotation of him and Luke Jackson, which seemed to work beautifully. And this team just seems to be playing out of their skin so far. Definitely not what I was expecting to see this early on with the injuries of Ben Brown and Sam Wiedemann. But they need to keep this up. How they're playing is definitely almost top 4 level, you'd have to say. Even though they did play some pretty poor, you know, opposition so far this year. So when they, you know, versus a side like Richmond, that's when they get put to the real test and see what they can actually do. But so far, they've done everything right. And I expect them to have a very, very good season. I've gave the 1 to Toby Green, the 2 to Gazai Pickett, and the 3 to Max Gawn. And finishing off for the last game of the round, which was the Easter Monday clash between Geelong and Hawks, where it ended up being a 5-point margin from a late surge by the Hawks, having a great last quarter, you know, kicking the 4 goals to 1 last quarter. But the 1 goal that they gave in the lead and gave in the win was that Jordan Clark absolute marvellous goal. In this match, it was a pretty weird one. You would have to say that Geelong were pretty much controlling this match the whole way through until that last quarter. And there seems to be a bit of a trend now for Geelong that they keep on falling away in the last quarter. They did it against Brisbane, and I can't remember how they did against Adelaide. I think they pretty much played a 4-quarter effort that game. But it's been a trend the past couple rounds, which has not been great for them. But the way that Cam Guthrie played in this match really showed his All-Australian form. 43 disposals, 11 marks, which is unreal numbers. 37 disposals for the returning Mitch Duncan, which I'm not sure they were expecting that. And their new role of Mark O'Connor to become a tagger has been an absolute success. Him finishing with the 26 disposals, with the 7 marks and the 8 tackles have been a great success. He did end up tagging Tom Mitchell, who ended up finishing with 24 disposals, and absolutely kept him quiet and had pretty much no impact on this game. But someone that did have an absolute brilliant impact on this game was CJ. His ability to be one of the best young defenders in the competition. He can break lines. He's not scared. He goes back with the flight. He was taking on Tom Hawkins a lot in this match, even though he's very, very undersized, and he's just such a great player. He's a very high impact player. I don't know if he'll ever actually go into the midfield, but he definitely has a line breaking ability. He has toughness. He has everything you want in an AFL footballer. And I expect him to be one of the best young players in the competition in the next few years. And Chadwin Wingard returning into this game was great success for the Hawks, kicking 1 goal 3 and almost was the match winner for this match. But in the end, Hawthorn were just not good enough against them in the Isaac Smith clash. So for my votes, I'm giving the 1 to CJ, the 2 to Mark O'Connor, and the 3 to Cam Guthrie. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, and we're on the road to 600 subscribers.